nowadays, there's not one way. You have to be on social media, and you have to send email newsletters, and you have to have a website, and you have to do all these things. You have to do it in real life too. Go to the Peachtree and sponsor a Little League team, and go to the Chamber of Commerce mixer and press the palms and do all these things that you have to do in real life as well. And repeat that message and then deliver on it.
Jay Croft, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Rick.
Glad to have you back, man. Is this your second time on the podcast?
You know, it's my second or maybe even third.
Is
I
it
think
really?
I've been on twice previously, and you've been on mine twice.
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
We should make a habit of that.
I think we should.
Well, today it'll be a bit different because we have a really cool announcement. Not to bury the lead, but we'll get to that later. So meanwhile, you're on the podcast. You know how this works. Do you have a dad joke?
I do have a dad joke.
And you committed it to memory. Like I have my phone out because my memory stinks these days because my brain is squeezed with other info. So props to you for remembering. Let's hear it.
Of course. So guy says to his friend, "Hey, buddy, do you know where I can get a toupee?" Friend says, "Well, not off the top of my head."
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good. I love that.
That's a good one.
Well, interestingly enough, mine is in the same vein as yours.
Okay.
So 3 tons of hair was stolen from a wig factory. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, police are combing the area.
Oh.
It's all about hair today, folks.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are hairdressers, but hey, look at that.
Very good.
That's amazing. But anyway, we're having Jay on today. There is a special announcement. I won't bury the lead too far. Jay is now going to be entering our vendor suite as an official Alloy vendor. And I'll let him explain what his background is first, what he's been doing for Alloy franchisees, and why that's an important thing. So just in case anyone doesn't remember, because it's been a minute since you've been on. Like, what is your background?
My background is primarily in journalism. I was a newspaper reporter and editor at daily newspapers across the country for 20 years, including about 10 at the AJC. And that's where I was working when the iPhone came along and killed the newspaper industry.
Oh, 2008-ish, right?
Yeah. I left in 2007.
Okay.
Somehow I
Good
saw
timing.
I saw the writing on the wall, and I said, "It's time to go." And I left in 2007, and everyone else, all my friends and colleagues, left the next year. So all I ever wanted to do was be a journalist, and then suddenly that was no longer on the table, and so I kind of scrambled for a way to make a living, ended up in corporate communications at some of the blue chip huge firms here in Atlanta. I did corporate communications, marketing communications for 2 or 3 of those, and didn't care for it, didn't succeed at it. You know, being a newspaper reporter, you're kind of a rebel, and then suddenly you go into corporate America and you have your cubicle and you have your your office politics and
compliance and
Yeah, I didn't.
Let me review that article, Jay. You're like, oh, here we go.
One more review. Yeah. So that was not a good fit for me, and I after a few years of that, I turned 50, and I've always gone to the gym. I've always been in pretty good shape. Occasionally, I've been in great shape, but like most people, it kind of comes and goes. Yeah,
I get it. That's everyone.
So I've been going to the gym for 25 years or whatever. And shortly after I turned 50, I felt invisible to the fitness marketing. And I can't really tell you a specific example, like I saw something or somebody said something. But the way I put it is, it's like the first time you're riding in a car with teenagers and they're singing along to the songs on the radio and you have no idea what that song is or who that singer is, right? Because pop music is for kids. It's not for 50-year-olds, right? So it's kind of like that. And I thought, hey, wait a second. What's going on here? I've been doing this my whole life. I'm confident here. And I've got money. Why don't you want my money? And I started looking into it. Being a reporter, I looked into it a little bit, found out that this industry, this is 10 years ago, the industry largely ignores people who are a little bit older and really seems obsessed with 25-year-old boys, which is okay, I guess, but they don't have any money and they're going to quit you in a minute, and who cares? You can't upsell them on anything. So you know this better than I do, of course. So I looked into it a little bit, met some nice people who showed me that, yeah, this is a problem in the industry, and some gym owners want to reach out to quote-unquote older people, which I define as 50 and over. You can also define it as 40 and over,
Right.
60 and over. I don't care. The point is, you're just a little bit beyond that key market that they're so obsessed with. And your life is different. Your lifestyle is different. Your body is different. So your fitness needs are different. And it's largely, again, you know this better than I do, it's largely an ignored segment of the population. There's a huge economic opportunity here. And so long story short, I started writing marketing content for gyms and studios that want to reach the quote unquote older market, but don't know how to write, don't know how to publish email newsletters or post on social media or anything like that, or they have websites that are disasters or what have you. And those people who want my help, I provide it to them and I help them market their business to this market, to this segment of the population. And that's my business. It's called Prime Fit Content. And I've got gyms across the country and a few in Canada and a few in some other countries, which is kind of interesting that people in other countries are, doing this as well. And I create and publish this material that I sell to them that they then use in their marketing to primarily distinguish themselves as, with any neighborhood. And when driving here today, I passed, I don't know how many gyms on my way to your studio, Planet Fitness and I forget what else, but there's a bunch of them right around here. Mm-hmm. So how do you stand out, right? How do you say I'm different? I'm not like every other gym in town. And being a communicator, I believe that communications is a huge element of that. You have to tell people, I want to help people who are older. I have the skill to help people who are older, and I can give them the experience and the results that they want. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing now. I have been doing for the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're all in on this market because our entire franchise, which is basically talking about putting your money where your mouth is, like I'm in the same age bracket as well, is definitely underserved. As you know, the over 50 market has at least now, I don't know what the stats are currently, but 70% of the nation's disposable income, probably more than that now. And everyone feels young at heart. If you have means, you want to adventure travel, you want to do all these things in your life. And there's just not a lot of fitness brands that speak to that. And so not only, like if you show up, say an Alloy, everything's different. Like it's personal training. So like your induction process is different. You're treated as an individual. We're probably one of the few brands that can work around any injury that you may have, whether it be hip replacement or back problems. I know you've talked to a few, clients of different Alloy locations, at least here in Atlanta, that have overcome things like that. There's not a lot of other brands that can do that. And so it's a very good audience to target because it's so underserved. Also answers the question, like in the competitive landscape, a lot of our franchisee candidates are like, there's a lot of fitness out there. How are we going to differentiate ourselves? Well, one way is in the imaging, the text, the language, all of that. Like your brand is everything from the initial interaction through to you've been there 10 years working out, which, our average retention rate is much higher than the industry because once they land with us, they stick around because we're one of the few brands that can accommodate them.
Right.
And so, people ask about competitive landscape, and we are in a lot of markets where the Alloy location is in the same shopping center if the landlord allows it with a F45. There's an Orange Theory in the out parcel at the front of their shopping center. There's maybe a Hot Works brand in there as well. And they're thriving because we only need 130 to 150 people. And I always equate it to our parallel to like a luxury car dealerships. They all put them in clusters because if you're looking at an Audi, maybe you want a BMW, maybe you want a Porsche, right?
Right.
So why not just put them together? And I'm really confident I can find 130 people in an underserved age bracket that would like our flavor better. So they're either in a different brand that's not appropriate to them, or they've tried a few things and they're like, none of this works. And it's so fun to go into those markets, Jay, and hear the customers speak back to you what you're hoping that they understand.
Yeah.
Which is I'm so happy that you guys are here. There's nothing like this in my market.
Yep.
I haven't had any other place to work out. This is amazing. Thank you for bringing it here. And you're standing there basically what you said, right? So I think part of that we just talked about was how we communicate to that customer. So what have you been doing specifically for the Alloy locations that you work with? Like, what do you do for them and how do you communicate to that customer avatar?
Right. Well, I have been writing email newsletters and posting on social for a handful, maybe more, 8 to 10 alloy studios, most of them here in Atlanta. And the primary thing that I think is so valuable is to communicate with them and get that message out there over and over and over again. I talk to a lot of gym owners all across the country who are reluctant to repeat themselves, say the same thing again. See what I just did? They don't want to repeat themselves, right?
I see what you did
It's
there.
okay. You have to repeat yourself because there's
How many times do people have to hear or see something before it sticks? It's like seven now, maybe 10.
At least seven times.
Right. Yes.
And that can be something as basic as older people need to lift weights. Not just, hey, Alloy is really cool and it's down the street at 124 Main Street. You should come check it out. It can be just a mind-opening idea, like women after menopause can improve their bone health if they lift weights. People my age and over, I'm 60. I remember when fitness became a part of the culture. It was in the late 70s and early 80s. Before that, people didn't go to the gym. They didn't exercise. It wasn't part of life. And so people my age and older don't know these things as much as their kids do.
Correct.
Because the kids grew up with everybody goes to the gym, everybody works out, or you choose not to, but at least you're aware of it, right? But we have to educate people so much and keep repeating these messages about the role that health and fitness play in extending the quality of your life and extending your autonomy, helping you just look better and feel better and move better. And I've been talking to a lot of Alloy members for the newsletters and the social posts that I've been providing to some of the studios, Alloy studios. And it's always just very moving how they find Alloy and it's almost like falling in love in that you come upon the brand or the person or the experience and you think, you're what I've been looking for. Where have you been? And maybe they've actively been looking and they're aware that they've been looking, but maybe they're not. And then suddenly they see this and they're like, oh, this is what I need because I've been working for 20 years, raising the kids and hunched over a computer and I can't golf anymore. Or, I can't beat my brother-in-law at tennis anymore. Or, all of that, right? And you guys give them that back. And so you have to constantly be telling people. And, when I started out in newspapers were kind of the way that you got your word out. Well, nowadays, there's not one way. You have to be on social media and you have to send email newsletters and you have to have a website and you have to do all these things. You have to do it in real life too. Go to the Peachtree and sponsor a Little League team and go to the Chamber of Commerce mixer and press the palms and do all these things that you have to do in real life as well. And repeat that message and then deliver on it. And that's something that Alloy is superior at. I've been to a number of Alloy locations, including this one, and talked to countless people about it. And the experience is so important for this market. If you haven't been to a gym lately out of town or out of your neighborhood or just somewhere that's not a place you're familiar with, and you're over 50, walk into a typical gym and see how the teenager behind the counter doesn't even look up to acknowledge you, and how nobody wants to be bothered with helping you, and how the music is hip hop and heavy metal blasting your ears apart, and it's full of boys in those stringy tank tops posing in front of mirrors and dropping weights. Well, that's not really much of an experience that's going to appeal to a mature person with money. Alloy does, you provide that personal touch and it's so important. And that experience, that user experience starts before they come in. It starts with how you communicate to them through your advertising, through your marketing, through your email newsletters, and all of this that we're talking about.
Well, I love it. Let's talk email newsletters because I think it's undervalued. If you have a list, and so say, like, just to give you the landscape of an Alloy, I know that you understand this, but for any listeners that don't, we in a pre-sale, we're all hands on deck, lots of marketing. I mean, you've got a window of time where you've got all bandwidth to just, explain to the market what you have. They have a problem. You have the solution. Let's do business, right? Let's work together. And so during that pre-sale process, you will accumulate a lot of leads. Some are ready to start. Some will become your founding members. Some are not, but they might be. So let's say the dust settles. Now you're on your 20-mile march and you're still marketing and you're still acquiring information, because typically on any social media platform or on the website, people have to put their info in. And we have the mechanisms that obviously it processes their info and holds it, and you can do whatever you want with their contact info. And so I think it's probably undervalued to have a decent sized list of people that you regularly communicate to. And in a marketing perspective, we always say, I know our customer avatar. I'm in it. I've been working with them for 34 years. That's how long we've been in business. Personal training has always appealed to people of this age bracket because the price threshold pushes us there. And we can accommodate all these injuries, which also pushes us into this, right? But forever and a day, we've understood how to speak to that person, right? But that email list, man, it's so important. And if you can get in front of them with the right message, we don't know when. So I know I can tell you who our customer avatar is. I can tell you what they want to hear. I don't know when they need to hear it. And it could be, they finally reached this critical mass of like pain or again, they see a vacation picture. You talked to a story about a lady that couldn't keep up with her granddaughter and had to leave a party because she just was exhausted. She starts training at Alloy the very next year. I think your tagline was like, come on, Nana, let's do it again. Yeah. Right. It's kind of like, all right. So she's repeatedly going up a blow up slide and sliding down with her grandkids. Last year, that was impossible to do. Right. Yes. Well, that's her why. Maybe that party was the catalyst to get her to start looking around. But the point is that you have to consistently put out relevant content that speaks to this audience so that when they're ready, you're that top of mind person.
That's right.
So an email list is pure gold. And so for our Alloy franchisees, you're sending out, say, 2 emails a week, right? Yes. And they're informative, and you're also personalizing them to the location if there's like an event going, like a client event or a whatever's going on in the community. Is that correct? You just tell me more, like if I missed on that.
No, that's about it. Exactly. The emails are so important. Your email list is gold. It's one of your most important possessions. And just briefly, I want to draw the distinction between email lists and, say, Facebook, which everyone gets Facebook, even if you don't want to do it, you kind of get it. But I hear from gym owners all the time, not necessarily Alloy gym owners, but others who say, I don't want to send email because I don't like to get email and I don't want to be annoying. And I say, I don't care what you want. How about that? Your job is to communicate to your potential customer, and you've got to do that through email. Sorry.
No, man, I love it. And you and I had a brief conversation about this before. Like, I just call BS on that, right? Like, I don't want to bother people. And I'm air quoting. And listen, I was telling you about the number one guy in our system. His name is Trent. He won Director of the Year this year. He could have gotten Franchisee of the Year award. They came back and purchased more locations. So once he has several open and they're doing well, he certainly will be in the running for Franchisee of the Year at some point. But someone asked him, like, how are you he's the number one guy in the system. And he kind of built himself to like a decent performer. He was in a good category, but he wasn't the number one guy. And then all of a sudden there's this big push and he ends up being number one. It happened in like 3 months. And so someone on one, because we do group calls for franchisees. So not only are we talking to and with and at them at times, they can share best practices. And so he's on the call. Everyone knows he's the number one guy because you have to share your numbers on the calls, which is very transparent. And everyone's asked him, man, how did you go from mid-level performer to number one? And he said, well, it was easy. I just contacted my leads every day until they either said, no, thank you, leave me alone, not in a hostile way, but like, no, I'm good. Or thanks for staying on me. I really need this. And they would come in the gym. And that's how I filled up my gym. Of course, there's a long pause and the other owners are like, what else did you do? It's like, no, just that. Just contacted my leads. To your point, jokingly, you don't care about whether they want to bother someone. You're not bothering people.
Right.
And I have so many stories, Jay, about I have a director that sent his owner, a director's like the manager in our terms, right?
Right.
A director sent his owner, who then sent it to me, a thank you note for staying on him to continue to stay on the customers, because a customer had written him a thank you note saying, hey, you reached out to me 7 or 8 times and I didn't respond at all. Had you not done that, because I was busy, I had a parent that was sick, I was out of town. So it wasn't that I didn't want to do it. It just the timing was off. But you kept reaching out. The messages were friendly. They indicated that you cared about me as a person. And so had you not been so diligent and consistent on reaching out to me, I would have never taken advantage of this. And now that I have, it's literally changed my life. So thank you for your persistence. That's where we ought to be staying mentally. So that whole head trash around like, I don't want to bother people or what? Look, if you're bothering them, they'll tell you, leave me alone. You're bothering me. And you take them off your list and you just write them off and move on. There's so many people that need your help out there. That's a terrible excuse. So I'm really glad that you said that.
It is a terrible excuse. They don't even have to ask you. They can just click that little unsubscribe button and move on with their lives. Because to get on your email list, they had to do something.
Yes, they had to submit their info voluntarily.
Right. They said, hey, Rick, would you send me some information about Alloy? And when they no longer want to receive it, they can click unsubscribe. The other thing is, to people who don't want to be spammers, well, don't send spam. That's
send relevant content.
Send relevant content.
Every email can't be an ask for a special or a drop down or a buy one get one free, or like, I'm making things up. These aren't even Alloy offers, of course,
right.
But to your point, if everything it's about me and what I can gather from you, as opposed to, again, the old Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Yeah. Jab, 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 right across. It's like give. And yeah, every now and then you might have an ask. Like, hey, guess what? We have a holiday thing running, or it's a bring your friend week. And it could even be like a soft, friendly marketing campaign. But mostly what you're doing, from what I understand, is just putting out really relevant content.
Yeah.
Why it's so important for people over 50 to strength train. Yes. That could be a great, like, maybe I didn't know that, to your point. I didn't grow up with that culture, right? And so now I read it and I'm like, oh, so maybe I do need to be lifting weights. Because like all the challenges that this gym just described in this article, that's me. Knee pain, no time, scared to go to a gym because I don't want to get hurt. I feel like a jerk because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to wander around and look like I'm like a newbie or whatever those things are. You're addressing all of those things. And so they read that and they're like, well, this is me. And then maybe they have to read it 3 or 4 different times or 3 or 4 different ways. And then finally it's kind of like, hey, this week we're having a bring a friend, whatever those things are. When you put that ask in there on the back end of a bunch of free, really great content, it's so effective.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing is you what you said a few minutes ago, you don't know when the moment's going to come that they're going to want you or want someone like you. And if you've already established this relationship with them and given them the opportunity to know you and like you and trust you, and know that when they see an email from Rick Mayo, they're going to say, oh, good, I like him. Right. That's not
this
spam.
Is always fun, uplifting stuff that I enjoy consuming.
Relevant content that I want to read. It's an interesting article about adventure travel among older people, or it's an interesting article about new research into, I don't know, breast cancer or any kind of things. Can be a healthy recipe, because it's shocking to me how popular recipes are, but they really are. People love them. And then you mix that in with local news, so to speak. We got a new trainer, meet Johnny. He's here every Tuesday and Thursday, and come say hi. Or we're going to be closed next week because the city's tearing up the parking lot to put in new lights, whatever it is. It's got to be a good mixture of kind of the global view on health and fitness at this stage in life, mixed with a little bit of who you are, and then occasionally an ask, so to speak, or a promotion or something like that. It is not a hard sell all the time. It's just a chance to maintain contact so that when they're ready, when that catalyst happens, when their brother-in-law beats them for the last time, or when the grandchild says, I don't want to play with Nana because she's boring because she won't play with me, or when you get winded going to check the mail, whatever it is, something oftentimes happens and you think, oh, that's enough. Got to make a change. They know who to call.
Yeah, you've been in front of them the whole time.
Yep.
It's just that it's like a top of mind awareness, and it takes a lot of things, but certainly if you've got a pot of gold, which is an email list,
yes,
and you're not regularly communicating to that email list, you're nuts, right?
You're nuts.
And so that's what essentially, at its bare essence, what you're bringing to the table. And so we're bringing Jay in, you guys, as a vendor, because he is a specialist at not only communication, but really out of his own self-interest and research, communicating fitness and wellness to our target customer avatar. And we would promote that any of our franchisees do a consistent newsletter, an informative newsletter, exactly the format that you're putting out.
Yep.
And it's funny that you mentioned that. I didn't realize that you were already working with a couple of franchisees, and I'm on their email list. So I'm consuming their content, not knowing it was driven by you, because I get the emails and I'm like, well, this is interesting. And I'll click on it and be like, well, this is fucking great. Like,
no kidding.
Yeah, like Nick Garrity, he's killing it.
Yes.
He's coming up with all this stuff. Amazing. And then it comes to find out, smart guy, he had time for that. He hires an expert who does it. And so I'm really excited to bring you into the fold. And, look, within a matter of weeks or so, you can go to the vendor portal. You can find Jay's information. It's going to have all of his contact info in there. He's got some, we'll save pricing and everything for those conversations, but he's got some really good relevant offers for Alloy. And look, man, I hope everyone does it, because what it boils down to, as a small business owner, you wear many hats. Mm-hmm. And we find that some people have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. Like, we have franchisees that crush social media, the organic.
Sure, yeah.
They're really good at it.
Yeah.
We have others that aren't. So we've got people that can send me some pictures and some videos, and I'll make a fancy, high energy post, right? Well, regularly communicating through an email list to your membership or to your list of leads is a very important thing to do for a franchisee. If they don't want to write an article, they don't know how to write an article, or they don't want to do it, again, our job is to put enough resources around Alloy to allow our franchisees to pick and choose the parts that they think are gaps in their business.
Yep.
And to be successful. But one of those ideas is okay, there's some things that you'll be good at.
Yeah.
Like, if you're somebody with finance, you might not need to hire an accountant. But if you need one, we've got one in the vendor suite. He's great. If you are more analytical, let's say you are the numbers guy, you're probably not going to kill the creative side. So if that's the case, we've got somebody like Jay who can hit your email list twice a week with relevant info. So I'm really excited to have you in the brand. Obviously, you and I have been talking. You've been on the podcast a few times. We've been friends forever. We bump into each other at trade shows. Yeah. And we've always sort of, tried to noodle on how can we get you involved with the brand, because there's some value there. And I'm really glad that organically you started working with some Alloy franchisees. And now it's okay, so here's the niche, right? Here's the slot. And we're headed to 800 clubs here in a relatively short period of time. And so there could be some good scale for you and for us. I trust you. I know what kind of content you put out. I know it's high quality. So I'm so happy to put you in the vendor suite and allow franchisees to use you to put out this relevant content. I think it's awesome. So we're super stoked to have you, and I hope every franchisee takes advantage of it. So we'll make an official announcement in our next newsletter, but I wanted to have you on today. Just, again, a lot of people know who you are locally, but we got a lot of new franchisees that haven't heard that podcast or haven't met you personally. But yeah, man, I'm super excited. I'm glad you're here.
Well, I'm really moved by all of that. Thank you very much. We have known each other for a while, and you were one of the first people I met in fitness, and I just thought, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about, and he's saying the same thing that I'm saying. I felt like,
is that why you thought I knew what I was talking about?
Yeah, because you sounded like me a lot. You reminded me of myself.
I often feel drawn to people that agree with me. They're really smart.
They're the smart ones, so I look for them. No,
I'm teasing you.
I really have always admired the whole Alloy
I appreciate that
model, and
it's basically anything that you're communicating.
Yeah.
We're on board. We always send, when we get franchise candidates here for Discovery Day, we're like, who listens to the Peter Attia podcast, right?
Yeah.
Who's read, what is it, Outlive or
Outlive? Yeah, I think that's it.
I can't remember, but who's read that? Who pays attention to these things? Because if you look at these cutting edge anti-aging protocols, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Strength first.
Yeah.
Move more. Zone 2 cardio. Every now and then get your heart rate really high.
Right.
Stay out of the junk zone, which is 3 to 4, which is every other boot camp brand out there that's crushing 20-year-olds into dust. Good for them. Better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. But if you're a 55-year-old with a funky shoulder, and if you're 55, you have a funky something, right? And you want to get in the best shape possible, and you have a certain amount of time you can allocate to exercise, here's the ratio, or here's how you should allocate that time. Yeah. We've got it nailed, right? And that's what you're communicating on a regular basis, but you're doing it in a clear-cut way that a non-fitness consumer can read it and understand it. But also me, with the curse of knowledge around fitness, I read it, and I'm like, that's on point.
Yeah.
That's a clear, simple way to explain it that someone that knows nothing about fitness can get, and someone that's advanced, that's already into fitness, can be like, yes. Right.
Yeah.
So it's an art, man. And obviously it's your craft and you're really good at it. And so, I hope every single Alloy franchisee starts sending out 2 newsletters a week. That's what they should be doing.
Well,
how's that? You want to use that for your advertising?
I think I want to use that a lot. Yeah. I think I couldn't ask for anything better
important.
than that.
And it makes them look good. I feel confident in whatever that you're putting out is, obviously we vet every
of course
vendor. They have to be in alignment with the brand and everything. And that was already a foregone conclusion just based on all our conversations. So looking forward to seeing what you can do with it. And I know it's going to help franchisees not only fill up their gyms, make more money, help more people. And that's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
Anything to add? I mean, all your contact info, we don't have to go over that now because we'll have that.
Yeah. Okay.
on the portal. So just look for it, you guys, in the next few weeks. And if you have an email list and you're not regularly reaching out to them, not with like, come try our 6-week challenge or whatever those things are.
Right.
We don't believe in that anyway. But whatever those offers are, if you're not just putting out great content, like reach out to Jay. You'd be crazy to do it. And you basically do all the legwork. You have access to the software. And I know you'll talk to Chamberlain later this week about how we're doing that and getting you good access to everyone. So you really just hire Jay and he does it. That's it in a nutshell, right?
That's
you
it
have to
in
do
a
nothing.
nutshell.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
Love it.
Love it.
Every owner on here will love to hear that. You mean I don't have to do anything? And these really cool emails will go out twice a week to a list of people that I paid to acquire their emails? Yes.
Yes, that's it.
That's it.
Man, you've made my day, Rick.
No, that's it. That's the way I see it. And that's why you're sitting in this chair. And I'm really glad to be finally working with you in some capacity.
So am I. Absolutely.
All right, brother. Well, listen, guys, look to hear from Jay. If you're not with Alloy, I guess you can reach out to Jay, but you're not going to get the same service as you would if you were with Alloy.
Well,
I'm just teasing. I'm protective.
I understand.
You can't have our vendor. No, all kidding aside, like if you're at all in a personal training brand, Alloy or not, and you're looking to communicate to this audience, like Jay's your man. So appreciate you, brother. Glad to be working with you officially, finally.
Yes, thank you. Same to you.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.